Welcome to ZOOMERTIMES TV. And here's your host, Anita Finley.
Okay, so hello everybody. I'm Anita Finley, your sparkling toast to the host. I was thinking about what a wonderful show this is when we get people like our next guest, Carol Mahoney, because Carol lives in a world full of good things. Even though the world is Faith Farm Ministries, such good things happen there every single day. You just have to look for them. People come there in need and they wind up getting so much help and they have smiles. And I have seen them at their graduations and I've seen them. And of course, there's people like Carol, who's been there a long, long time. And she's the one that I always talk to and talk about them. So welcome to our show, Carol.
Anita, it is a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
You're welcome. And you have a certain dedication to Faith Farm Ministries. A lot of people may not have, because how many years have you actually worked there?
Well, I've been here 6 years. So, and I'm in service to Faith Farm completely. I take this job very seriously. But also prior to my working here, I also just about drank myself to death. So I've walked in these shoes as well with people and know the hopelessness, know the desperation. So there's no judgments here, and a lot of us have. So I feel like this is a chance for me to make something good out of that god awful time in my life. So I think I'm in the perfect place.
Yeah. Well, Carol, it's funny how many people I've talked to now from Faith Farm, and they're so joyful and they don't mind talking about what their addiction was, because they hope that someone watching, listening, will also be saved, will also understand they don't have to go it alone. And that's been the problem with a lot of things we see on the news. A lot of people commit suicide. They do things because there's no one there to help them. And I think that's what you can address with Faith Farm. How does Faith Farm really help people with addictions when they do get there?
Well, we stress our program, which is a spiritual faith-based program. And if people are ready to commit to that, they are given all the tools, not only to live a life walking in the light, but also live a life without addiction and get skills to start that life over again. So we're not a rehab where we're a nonprofit. We don't do this for profit. So we have that little part of it exited out. We don't do this for money. We do this to save people's lives. And you hit on some excellent points with your beautiful introduction that nobody has to be ashamed of addiction like in the real world. Not that this isn't the real world, but we don't have to worry about judgment of our past and having used drugs and alcohol. And it's something that, before I got to Faith Farm, nobody knew about it. It was a shameful thing for me to talk about, and I hid it from everybody. But now I have nothing to be ashamed of. And I think that also helps others to see a real living person that's like, well, if she can come right out and say it like that, I can live that way.
Right.
And so when people come here, they are fully supported that way. You have nothing to hide. And another thing, when you're using alcohol and drugs, the alcohol and drugs is talking to you. It's telling you, you want to go ahead and kill yourself. You can drive that car even though you're falling, stumbling down. And that is something that goes away after you come into our program. You are encouraged to live the right way. Those little voices disappear and new voices come from above that, you're a wonderful person and you're back. So that's the beauty of this program and the true miracle that happens every day.
Yeah, that's so well said, Carol.
Thank
I know
you,
you
Anita.
believe this so much too. And I have to say that there are a lot of people out there who maybe are not addicted to drugs particularly. Of course, opioids now. It used to be alcohol, but now we're into other things. But they're also, they're mean. They hit people. They do things, you read about it all the time. They leave their dogs in a car. They leave their babies in a car. They beat their wives, or the wives do terrible things. So it's all part of shame, I think. And it's a way to get rid of shame. Now, I don't know who you accept there at Faith Farm. If somebody isn't actually an addict of alcohol or drugs, but they do have other addictions, would they ever be able to come there and be helped, do you think?
Well, we primarily stick with the drug and alcohol addictions and there are those disorders that you speak about, but a lot of them require a doctor and a prescription. And some people do need to take drugs, not to get high, but to deal with psychological disorders. Right. And so something like that, we wouldn't have medical staff here on the campus. So, but sometimes they're all kind of a mixed bag too. It's a one-on-one individual kind of interview with our intake people who decide. So sometimes when people do have, the mean part and the irresponsibility with your children, a lot of that stems from your alcohol abuse, which also stems from whatever, they're all symptoms of an inner thing that our pastors here counsel people. So depending upon what is decided during the interview, yes, we would take people because it's an outward symptom of a much deeper problem. So
yeah, I was thinking as you were speaking, Carol, that I'm sure many people who have alcohol, that's when they can get mean and they can do these terrible things. So yeah, that's right. It's all part of it, isn't it? But the biggest thing that, and I want to ask you about this, years ago, 20 years ago, when Faith Farm first was founded, well, that was like 60 years ago, actually, and 68, I don't know how many years.
70 years. We're in our
70 years.
Which is amazing.
It is amazing. So it was mostly alcohol. That's what it was. And now it's moved into, it used to be actually bad drugs like heroin and things like that. But then it's gone now to opioids and to, other kinds of drugs. So what are you seeing more of? Are you still seeing a lot of alcoholism?
Well, alcohol is kind of with us to stay. So people are always going to get addicted to alcohol. It's just so sewn into our culture. As a young child, you see the ads for it. Everyone's having a great time. All the guys and women love you. And, it's a very false set of advertising. But I just want to say something too real quick, because you did mention now it's been compounded. Like when Pappy first opened up Faith Farm 70 years ago, he was just seeing the same old guys getting drunk. They would come, they would sleep it off, which is what we all grew up with. And then Pappy started to see the same people that were coming back. And it was primarily men at that time, women too, but they probably were hiding it because we weren't able to get any type of help in the 50s. But so that's what Pappy's mission was. He said, we've got to do more than just let them sleep it off and then go out and get drunk again. In 2020, and I'm sure that the COVID pandemic had a big part in this, but it was still a problem in this country up to that point. The US recorded its higher overdose death rate ever recorded.
No.
Last year in 2020, 93,000 people didn't just died. And that's a 30% leap from the previous year. Now, we can attribute that to, of course, addiction is a disease of isolation anyway, but to not even know who's open, who's not open. I can't go here. I'm putting myself at risk. And when you're addicted, you don't really care about those things, but it was hard to get information. It was hard to know who was accepting people. Some people weren't accepting. So I just think the nature of addiction, the total isolation and despair. Like I said, last year's overdose rates, I got to repeat it because then I'm going to make a plea to anybody out there listening that Faith Farm is still here for you. Go to our website, fill out the application. It's one page. It will take you less than 5 minutes, and just do what you have to do to get here, because you're not alone. And as Anita and Dan and I were talking about, we've all been living this ourselves, so there's no judgments. But yes, let's repeat these numbers again. The highest ever recorded, 93,000 people. So fentanyl is probably a big part of that, where some people do die from alcoholism over a given amount of time. It usually doesn't happen one time or two times. The problem when you relapse for fentanyl is a lot of times you don't get that second chance, because it's 100 more times more powerful than heroin. And heroin is a very powerful drug. So we are battling fentanyl now, which people that are addicted want to get the strongest stuff available, and they found it. So, that's another issue too that we're fighting. So again, please, if you have even the slightest bit of doubt, don't have doubt. Call us up, go online, fill out the application, come here. You are worth it. Your life is worth it, and your family is worth it. And you can call any one of our campuses at faithfarm.org, and we can get you in the program as soon as possible. I just can't stress that enough, that one death is too many, but 30% more than the year before is just horrendous.
Oh, wow. It's funny. I've done a lot of interviews. I've not heard those statistics. I'm so glad you're on the show today to do that. I want to give everybody the phone number too. It's 561-737-2259. And you can talk to Carol and she'll help you into, whichever way it has to go. But wow, let me just ask you about
that. That's
fentanyl.
Reuters. That came from Reuters, Anita.
Okay.
So you can
fentanyl.
look it up.
How is fentanyl? Is that injected, or is that a tablet, or what?
It's probably all those ways. I mean, it's a gradual thing. At the end, you are injecting it, you are making it powder and melting it.
Wow.
It's probably starts out as a pill. I mean, thank God I don't know, but those kind of drugs came around long after I was out of that lifestyle. But it probably came from a prescription at one time, like most opioids do. And I mean, when you're addicted, you're going to get the strongest stuff you can. You don't care about your life anymore. So,
okay. So people who are listening now, they really do what Carol said, and I can attest to that. So just imagine 400 people, men and women, they don't know where to turn. They get to come to this place called Faith Farm Ministries, whether it's in Fort Lauderdale or Boynton or Okeechobee. They don't pay a cent. They are housed, they're fed, they're trained, they're helped with certain kinds of employment. And it's a camaraderie. It's almost like going to a university in a way, or not only a college, but a family. You're adopted almost, and people are there to care for you. So please don't suffer yourself. You don't have to. You don't have to be ashamed. Don't even consider suicide. It's not necessary. The world needs you. And let's get you into the right place. And I love Faith Farm Ministries. I rave about it. I want people to donate to it. I want you to put it in your will. You could put in $100. You could put in $100,000. You can put in $1 million, because you know exactly where the money's going. This is not like their administration costs are very low. They are really a superb organization. I wish we could clone them all over the country. Unfortunately, we can't, but that's what the country needs. So, Carol, I am so happy that you are there. You've been a beautiful human being, and you make sure that people are treated right. I mean, they are treated right, but you're there as a lending hand. I know that.
Well, so are you, Anita. I mean, you've done so much for Faith Farm too, and we are, eternally grateful for you and Dan. I mean, just like brother and sister. You're two wonderful people who really care about people, and
Well, we
you've been
love all of you, I have to tell you.
I can tell. You're
We
wonderful
love you.
people.
If what you have to do is get a tour. Just go out there.
Yes.
Even if you don't have any addictions, go out there and you'll see all the beautiful furniture and bikes and books and jewelry and things that you can buy very inexpensively.
Cars, boats,
Right,
RVs,
cars and boats, that's true.
wave runners. I mean, everything inside and outside of your house you can find at Faith Farm.
Yes, so you can, and it's inexpensive, and the proceeds, of course, go to Faith Farm. See, when someone arrives there, they may not have worked at any particular thing. They train them. I've had a lot of issues where I've had them come to my home and they pick up things, and everybody's so polite. They're so kind. They're so smart, and they're not ashamed anymore because they're loved.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a very inspiring spiritual environment. And like I said, a lot of us feel like we've been blessed with this gift of sobriety, and we want to take that a step further in service to the Lord. So the best way you can do that is to help others get out of the scourge of addiction and show them that there's a whole nother life waiting for them, or just lifting that veil, and then that wonderful person is still there. It's just that addiction is like a shroud over that person, and it takes over. But that shroud can easily be, we lift that shroud of addiction and give them back their lives.
Well, we see that when we go to a graduation, and it is amazing that people, and these are men, let's say mostly men, they don't have a lot of women that go, but who are in the program. They would take more, but it's a little harder for a woman to give up all the 9 months, 10 months without families and all. But let's talk about the men.
Yeah.
You see men hugging one another, calling themselves brothers. They will tell you exactly all the faults they had. Their parents, sometimes the grandparents, the families are there, all saluting them, so happy now that they've come to some kind of conclusion that they're going to be a different person.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to go through a graduation without, that lump in your throat and tears welling up in your eyes. And my first article that I wrote to Boomer was about all of the graduates that did not have the family member there, that have never heard "I love you" before from anybody, that have grown up in an environment where, and this is unbelievable that people have children, that you can tell right away when you're not loved in a family. So we become their family. We're the ones who tell them, we love you, you're worth it, you don't have to throw your life away. And sometimes that's just enough. And with our, our curriculum and our classes too, and our pastors that counsel, but gosh, I mean, you could just change the direction of a life that easily by just telling someone, I care about what happens to you.
Mm-hmm.
I really love you. I mean, it's an amazing feeling knowing that someone cares about you. And a lot of people that come through our program never had that. I mean,
it's hard to believe when you haven't come from a family like that. But I also wanted to add that that the important thing is people who are there, they get to stay 10 months. Sometimes they never want to leave because they're afraid if they, aren't there, that maybe they're going to go back to their addiction. But most people, and I don't, there's always a percentage of people who just can't keep away, but they have a very high percentage of people who make it out of there, and then they wind up sometimes starting their own organization to help others. And I've seen that. They start churches, they start organizations, and that's what it is. It's such an inspiration. And I think that's the beauty of this whole thing. It's like holding another person's hand, holding another person's hand. And it is a beautiful thing, Carol. And I want to just tell everybody again, my guest is Carol Mahoney, and the phone number to talk to her is 2259, put a 561 in front of that. I'll say that again slower. 737-2259. And you can talk to Carol. You can tell her anything. And she will
Yes.
help you. She knows what's right. And if she can't help you, she'll get someone on the phone who can help you.
And just real quick too, Anita, because I know we're running out of time, but our program itself is 10 months, but no one is told to leave after the 10 months if they're not ready. Some people know, this is what I'm going to do with my life now. And I'm going to leave. I'm going to become a pastor. I'm going to go back to college, which they can also register at the college, by the way, South Florida Bible College, and get 9 college credits if they graduate from our program. So that's another beautiful thing we can discuss if they call up here or we talk about it. But you know what? Some people are like, it's 10 months. I'm not ready. They can stay in the program and be an AS1 student. This wonderful program we have, which is one of the best, the Omega Work Program, where you can live on the campus, and judging upon what your salary is, when you go outside of here and get a job, you can save money. Now, if anybody has lived in Florida in the last, I would say 10 years, we've seen those rents just go up 1,000-fold.
And Carol, we have run out of time, and you're right. You did a great job. Great job. We love having you on here. And please just keep doing what you're doing. You look great.
I will.
And we will, hopefully we'll talk to you again.
Okay. Thank you.
Carol.
Bye.
Bye.
If you or someone you know is having an addiction problem, there's a place that can help. It's called Faith Farm Ministries. What's important for those without addiction is that Faith Farm Ministries is supported by their 3 amazing thrift stores and by donations. Most people are not aware of the wonderful work they do for our fellow citizens. The way you can help is to make sure that their work continues. It's easy. Bring unwanted items to their locations during the day or put them in their drop boxes. Then, be sure to go and buy new or used items from their thrift stores. They're located in Fort Lauderdale, Boynton Beach, and in Okeechobee. Faith Farm Ministries makes the entire process a win-win to help and to get help, maybe even for yourself. For information, call 561-737-2259. That's Faith Farm Ministries, 561-737-2259. Or go online to www.faithfarm.org.